Hello, welcome to the OSU Alumni Association's Travel Talk presentation, the 221 Travel Preview, India and the Galapagos Islands, with Holbrook Travel and OSU professor Sunil Khanna. I am Kate Sanders, Director for Alumni Programs and Alumni Group Travel. Some of you that are viewing today have traveled with us in the past, and some are new to the program. Welcome. Our travel program has been around for over 30 years, providing group tour options for our alumni and friends of the university. We offer both exclusive departures and trips with a mix of alumni from other institutions, such as USC, University of Washington, and others. Every year, we select between 30 to 40 tours from a variety of well-established and well-respected travel providers and promote them to our community. When a tour sells well, a professor, university leader, or alumni association representative joins the tour, providing additional educational content about the destination and the university. Not only is the bond with the university strengthened by sending a host, but they also assist with tour logistics and help ensure you have a great time. This year, we invited representatives from various companies to speak to you about the tours and why they have been a trusted partner for many years. So far, we have heard from AHI Travel, Odysseys Unlimited, Go Next, Orbridge, and Lindblad Expeditions. If you would like to review any of these webcasts, please visit osualum.com/travel talks and scroll to the 2021 travel preview header. This webcast is being recorded and will be posted online as well. Before we dive into today's webcast, I always love to give a short update on travel in general. We keep wondering, when will we be able to easily travel internationally again? Well, if you want to go to the Seychelles and have had your COVID-19 vaccination, you're actually clear to go. But other places like French Polynesia closed their borders yet again due to the new COVID variants. For Ecuador and the Galapagos Islands, all travelers, including minors, must provide a proof of a negative COVID PCR test taken no more than 10 days before entering the country. There are no exceptions to this requirement. For India, we still don't have that perfect green light yet, but we're hoping to very soon. General tourism is still very restricted, and all approved visitors must quarantine for 14 days. But no matter where you go internationally, all air passengers arriving into the US, so if you leave and you come back, if you're older than 2 years old, you must show proof of a negative viral COVID-19 test or provide documentation from a licensed healthcare provider of having recovered from COVID-19 in the last 90 days. It is all very complicated, to say the least, but this is why we are here, to help you out. The vaccine will open more doors, but COVID tests will probably stay required for some time. Together, we will navigate the paperwork requirements and get you back out and home again. Travel bookings in general are soaring for late 2021 and into 2022. And to that point, this is why we are here today, to tell you all about what's in store for late 2021 and beyond. Today, we're going to talk about two of our new tours this fall, India and also the Galapagos Islands. To help with this conversation, Kevin Van Dien of Holbrook Travel and Dr. Sunil Khanna, OSU professor and Robert and Sarah Rothschild's Endowed Chair in the Global Health, are here with us today. We will begin by introducing you to our Golden Triangle and Tigers tour in India, with a short trip overview by Kevin and a more in-depth discussion on the places you'll visit with Sunil. After this, we will take you to the Galapagos Islands, well, at least through photos and conversation. Kevin will give us an overview of the trip and this amazing bucket list destination. To start us off, please welcome Kevin Van Dien of Holbrook Travel. Hi, Kevin, welcome.
Hello, thank you, Kate.
You're welcome.
My name is Kevin. I'm with Holbrook Travel, and I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. And I only have a few minutes to just kind of do an overview of the India trip because I really want Sunil to spend some time and kind of flesh out the story of this trip that we put together. It's going to be really amazing. So I'm just going to go over a little bit about Holbrook Travel and some of the details, the logistical details of the India adventure. There we go. And let me just introduce Holbrook Travel. This is a company that you may not be familiar with. Maybe some of you have been on our trips before, but it's a small company. It was founded by Giovanna Holbrook back in 1974. And we really pride ourselves on being an educational travel company. The organizations that we work with, their participants are really on a quest for knowledge. And in fact, we started out working with the University of Florida in Gainesville, which is where we're headquartered. And Mrs. Holbrook had the idea to just start taking students and teachers from the university to places like Costa Rica and Galapagos so they could get some real field experience. So our foundations are in educational travel experiences, which we still provide today. And this just has some photos of the team through the years. The photo you'll see on the top left is our current CEO when she was just a little girl, and she is standing on top of a Galapagos tortoise, which we do not do anymore, but it's an old photo from the 70s. So the company has a long history in some of these destinations that we still go to. And the other thing I wanted to point out about Holbrook Travel is that we started out as an ecotourism company back when sustainable travel and ecotourism, they weren't really the buzzwords that they are today. But we've always had those principles about making sure that we are not negatively impacting the places that we go to, whether it's the community or the actual environment or the wildlife that we're going to see, and show people we've always been very respectful of those aspects. And we work with the local communities to make sure that that is the case. A quick update on just some of the COVID-19 details. Now there's a lot of details on this page, so I'll just do, some of the highlights that I would point out. That we do work with small groups typically. So, this group to India is probably going to be between 12 and 18 people, so very small, small size. We tend to spend a lot of time in areas that aren't heavily visited by tourists, especially wildlife destinations. And we do include post-departure insurance, which is going to cover major medical costs that might happen during a trip. So let me briefly go over India, and I'm just going to kind of run through the itinerary. Like I said, Sunil's going to go into some details, but I just want to give you a quick map of where we're going. We're going to be doing an area called the Golden Triangle, which is going to start and end in Delhi. We're going to go to Agra, we're going to go to Ranthambore Forest, and we're going to end in Jaipur for the Festival of Lights. And again, some of the things that are included in here, there's a lot of information, just some of the highlights. We're including most of the meals. There's going to be a few dinners, few lunches that you'll do on your own, but they're going to be in places where you can find food really easily. We are also, for this trip, we're going to have a really nice big air-conditioned bus that's going to take us from place to place. So even on some of those longer drives, it's going to be very comfortable. And you're going to have Sunil on board with you. He's going to be really telling you about some of the amazing destinations that you're on your way to. And we are also including all of your tips and gratuities in the trip cost for this one. So I'm just going to briefly, a couple photos for each area. We're going to be in Agra for 2 nights. And again, you probably know this, but the main, feature that we're going to see in Agra is the Taj Mahal. It's not the only thing we're going to see, but I know Sunil's got some other photos he's going to share with you. So we'll definitely be paying a visit to the Taj Mahal and seeing that several different times. We're going to be 3 nights in Ranthambore, and I was really excited about these photos because this palace looks amazing. This is where you're going to be staying. It's not a place you're just going to visit. This is actually the lodge in Ranthambore, right outside this forest. Just amazing. All the hotels on this trip are 4- and 5-star hotels, so that you're going to be very comfortable on the India excursion. These are all photos.
Kevin, that hotel looks like a 6-star. That looks amazing.
I know. I kind of want to go just to hang out at the hotel for 3 days. Yeah, it looks beautiful, very luxurious. But of course, the main reason we're going there is because it's right outside this forest where you're going to be going on safaris during the day to look for these guys, the tigers. And there will be other wildlife, of course, but that's kind of the main thing people want to see when they go to Ranthambore in these really cool safari Jeep vehicles. So even though even our group is small, and you're going to be even in smaller groups for these tours. And then the last place on the trip before we end up back in Delhi is in Jaipur. We'll be at a really nice hotel there. Again, really luxurious place. And we timed it. This was a specific dates were picked for this trip so that we would end in Jaipur for the Diwali festival, which is going to be amazing. And I think Sunil's going to tell you a little bit more about what that entails. And we'll meet some other animal friends too while we're in the Jaipur area. So I'm going to end there. Again, that was a really brief, rapid overview, but Sunil's going to...
That was great. Yeah, Kevin, that was a great overview. And you're right. Sunil is going to join us. We'll welcome him to the screen right now and tell us a little bit more about where we're visiting. Hi, Sunil.
Hi, how are you, Kate?
Good. Thank you. Take it away.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to share my screen with all of you and so that you can see the slides that I have prepared. Here we go. Here we go. Okay, so it's not, first of all, thank you very much, Kate, for inviting me to talk about India, a country where I was born and I grew up in. And also just to, it's always fun to be able to talk about your home country. I also want to welcome every panelist, everybody who's attending here for their interest in India. It's not very often that I get to talk about the country that I love very dearly. I grew up in India. I grew up in New Delhi, and at that time, the capital city of New Delhi had a population of roughly about 11 million people. So it gives you a very crowded experience when you get to New Delhi. I do have a little bit of an historical background for you, but most of my presentation focuses on slides, some very nice sites that we all will be visiting. And I think one of the best things that I really like about this tour is that we will be driving from one place to another. And that is the best place to get to know, get to see people and get to know the so-called the real India, other than what we see in the photographs and in movies. So without further ado, I wanted to kind of get you introduced to India and wanted to let you know that we're going to be starting our journey at this magnificent international airport called as the Indira Gandhi International Airport. And this is going to be the arrival terminal. That's where we all will be arriving and getting our visas processed. Although the details about the COVID from India are still coming, they are updating on a daily basis. I've been following those details very carefully. And I am very happy to report that so far, India, for its size, has done a remarkable job in terms of controlling the spread of COVID-19. Masks are mandatory for everybody who goes out. The vaccination program is in full swing. And the Indian government hopes to open the country fully by summer. So that's their plan. Coming back to once you arrive at this very interesting and very nicely laid out airport, pay attention to the second photograph on the bottom, where you have these hand signals being just engraved in the wall. And these hand signals are essentially represent this yogic position where they are essentially telling you how to relax and how to calm down after a long journey. So that's kind of welcome to India kind of sign for you. And we will be spending about 3 days in Delhi, looking at some aspects of this magnificent city, and then going from there to Agra. Of course, no trip to India is complete without a visit to the Taj, and then from there to Ranthambore, and then Jaipur, and then we come back to Delhi. So my presentation kind of follows the tour that we will be taking. Let me give you just a brief kind of overview about India. You may have read a lot about it already, but just in case, there are about 1.2 billion people live in India. That's their current population. And the geographic area is about 1/3 the size of the United States. So it's a pretty densely packed country when it comes to people. But what's really interesting is that a large majority of India's population lives in rural areas. So you basically 70% of India's population kind of lives in spread out rural areas. So you don't get a sense of that if you're traveling outside of a big city, that India could be that populated. But if you're in Delhi, or if you're in any other major city like Bombay, which is now called Mumbai, or city of Agra, where we will be visiting, you will feel that you are actually traveling through a very densely packed area as far as population is concerned. India packs diversity. I mean, if this is going to be your first trip to India, then your definition of diversity will undergo a major transformation. India packs diversity in all aspects of life, whether it's linguistic diversity, religious diversity, rural versus urbanization diversity, tradition versus modernization diversity. I mean, you name it, you will see that playing out right in front of you as you travel through India. Just a very quick overview. I'm a professor, so forgive me for making this presentation sound, at least for this slide, sound a little bit academic. But most of the time, the Western understanding of India actually comes from the writings of the colonial administrators who came to India during the 1700s as part of the British East India Company, which came to India in early 1700s, and they were trading for cotton and jute. So most of what the outside world knows about India is from the writings of those administrators. And that actually is a very small part of India's history. In fact, the colonial period in India lasted for about 250 years. So you have 1700 to 1947 when the British left India and India became an independent country. Before the British got there, there was this long history of India as what we call as the pre-colonial period. There was a very vibrant, multi-state, multi-territory geography, and the Britishers basically carved a nation out of that diverse geography, diverse culture, and they gave it the name called India. During the pre-colonial period, although the concept of the nation called India didn't exist, but there were a lot of ways in which the southern part of India was connected with the northern part of India, and east was connected with west. And these big regional territories communicated, traded with each other. They went to wars against each other. All kinds of things were happening. But it was during the colonial period that India got its national identity as a nation state. And what a way to have that identity, where India became a nation state, but it was at that time under the colonial rule of the British. You know the story of the India's struggle for freedom with Gandhi and other Indian political leaders who fought the British off, and basically through non-violent, non-cooperation, essentially. And the colonial period ended in 1947. with India being divided into Pakistan on the east, a small part of Pakistan on the east, which later on became Bangladesh, and then the current state of Pakistan, nation of Pakistan, which is Pakistan today. During the post-colonial period, India embraced the idea of a multi-party democracy. Whether it's a whether it's kind of an inefficient system, India has held on to the ideals of democracy, just like the United States. And it is often described as not the oldest democracy, but the largest democracy in the world. With 1.2 billion people, they exercise their right to vote. India has recognized 16 national languages. It is very common to find a person from India who speaks more than 2 or 3 or even 4 languages, because that's how we are able to regionally communicate with our fellow Indians. In India, as an anthropologist, I learned that language, or at least the dialect, changes if you start moving from one place to another in any direction for up to 80 miles. You either have a different dialect of the language or altogether a different language. So learning another language became part of survival in India. And despite that level of linguistic diversity, religious diversity, somehow India has found a way to remain a vibrant democratic nation state. Just like here, people have very strong political opinions about what's happening in the national government, and they express their opinions through newspapers, through Twitter, through Snapchats, and through Facebook. Nobody, no political leader so far has lost the privilege to Snapchat or Facebook or Twitter yet. Moving on, I also wanted to point out that India is not only, it presents as a linguistically diverse country, it also presents itself as a religiously diverse country. In fact, secularism is coded into India's constitution, where people from all religious backgrounds are ideally supposed to live in harmony, and they can practice their religion the way they want to. So the freedom of religious practice and religious preaching is coded into the constitution. Some of the major religious groups that are represented in India include Hindus, they are the largest group, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, and Buddhists. When I use the word Hindus, it's kind of hard to describe Hindu as one religious group, but we often categorize that group as one. There are multiple, I would say, sects within Hinduism, multiple subgroups within Hinduism. So this is a probably very, very heterogeneous polytheistic religion, and we will get to see some aspects of Hinduism when we are in India. As I said, India packs tradition and modernity all together. If you look to the left, at least to my left on the screen, there is this image of people, men and women and children bathing. This is the time where this comes in once in 14 years. It is called as the Kumbh Mela. And during this time, on the banks of the holy river Ganges, Hindus believe, and again, a very diverse group of Hindus believe, that bathing in the river Ganges will wash away all your sins. So they wait for 14 years for this particular day or this particular week where they go and they bathe in the holy river Ganges. Right next to it is this bustling, vibrant, multi-story, complex city called Bombay. So you can see that tradition and modernization exist simultaneously, side by side. And the woman who probably lives in a household where she may not have access to tap water, so she's bringing water from the outside, but also talking to some of her family members over the cell phone. And again, that's the kind of diversity that you will see. Sometimes it creates a lot of confusion, but If you're interested in seeing face to face or dealing with this in real life, this is, you're welcome to this particular trip. When we arrive in New Delhi, our first exposure will be to New Delhi, which is the political capital of India, to its massive infrastructure and a very, very large population. I left India in the early 90s, and since that time, Delhi's population has grown to about 21 million people. Now, when I say 21 million people in Delhi, I mean Delhi and all of its surrounding suburban areas as well. In fact, it's now called as the National Territory or National Capital Territory. So in the main core city of Delhi, every day from the suburban community surrounding Delhi, 1 million people pour in by 8 a.m. And by 6 p.m., those million people return back to their homes. So Delhi's population may be between 19 to 20 or 21 million people, but then just add another million coming in at 8 a.m. and leaving by 6 p.m. Delhi has an excellent metro system and bus system and highway system. It also happens to be the capital, the political capital city of India. And once you kind of get the sense of Delhi, it is very hard to accept the fact that this city was first established in 50 BC. So there is the old part of the city from where this tiny city of Delhi started and started expanding into what it is today. And fortunately, we will get to visit that old part of the city, which is also often called as Old Delhi. And I grew up in the so-called new part of the city, New Delhi, but I remember going there with my parents and just loving the hustle and bustle of that old part of city. And I cannot wait to show you that part of the city. Today's Delhi is extremely urbanized. As I said, we have massive public transportation system, highways and bridges and sky-high buildings. It looks nothing like what it looked like in 50 BC. And then along with that, as I said, that we have diversity everywhere. Just when you are overwhelmed with looking at these massive highways and transportation system, you also get to see the traditional ways in which the local lords and maharajas used to travel. So you have the highways, you have the cars, and you have the Mercedes-Benz running right next to horse-driven carriages or oxen-driven carriages going on at the same time. Again, just adding to the diversity. One thing I wanted to alert you that given Delhi's population, we will do our best to avoid traffic congestion, but at times this is something that's just inevitable for a city that packs about 21 million people. So this is just a shot just to kind of systematically desensitize you about what you may find in Delhi. For the most part, traffic is very, people follow the traffic rules. They try to stay within their lanes, but often you have these bi-wheelers or two-wheelers like motorcycles and scooters that sometimes create a little bit of a problem. But we are very experienced hands there. When we will visit the old part of the city, one of the things that we are going to see is this oldest mosque in India, and it's called as the Jama Masjid. Masjid is the Urdu word for mosque. And this mosque was built in 1656, and the entire mosque and its minarets are built with red stone that was brought to India from Iran. So this mosque again is considered to be a very auspicious and a very holy place for Muslims to come and worship. And what's really interesting is that it is walking distance to a place that is India's political symbol called as the Red Fort. And Red Fort was built around the same time, a little bit earlier than that, in 1648, again with the same red stone that was brought to India from Iran. Our Red Fort actually has so many stories that are packed into it, the political stories, that I cannot wait to share with you when we are standing in front of the Red Fort. This is also a place where on every Independence Day of India, which is 15th of August, the Indian Prime Minister and the Indian President addresses the nation. So they have chosen this site, which was built during the Mughal period, even before the colonial period, as the site and symbol of India. So it's interesting that the contemporary nation state of India is using a symbol that was built in the pre-colonial, pre-India period to as a symbol of its national heritage. So that's the kind of diversity that we will get to see in India. Very quickly, we will move on to Agra. And one of the important things I wanted to mention that Agra is about 128 miles from New Delhi. And it's a city in the northern part of India. And it has a population about 1.5 million. Now, by India's standards, a city of 1.5 million, it's actually often not called a city, it's called an urban area, essentially. And this is a city that has a lot of Mughal heritage. The Mughal period started in India around 1100 to and going up to about 1700 when the British got there. So during this period, several Mughal kings built these fantastic monuments, and Taj Mahal is one of those monuments. Now, something to be uh, to just understand and appreciate Taj Mahal. I have been to the Taj multiple times. In fact, growing up, every summer we would visit the Taj Mahal. And I have taken many of my friends from the United States and also from Europe to Agra to show them the Taj. And I can tell you one thing with confidence that no picture of Taj Mahal, no matter how beautiful that photograph is, does justice to the beauty of this particular monument. It is amazing. It is gigantic. And we are not able to appreciate the size of this building, the symmetrical aspect of this building, without being present in person and seeing this building in front of us. This building is essentially a mausoleum that one of the Mughal kings, Shah Jahan, had built in the memory of his wife, his beloved wife, Mumtaz Mahal. And he was so much, the story goes that he was so much in love with her and he wanted to make a building for her that no one has ever made for their beloved in the world. So he commissioned these architects and artists from all over the world and brought them here. And essentially, during the process of building, he was emptying his coffers and taxing the people around him. So there is the other side of the story. But what he built was, in his mind, was the most amazing, and in the minds of the people afterward, the most amazing monument that one could have ever built. And it's often called as the monument of love. Unfortunately, Mumtaz Mahal, his wife, died before the Taj Mahal was completed. And heartbroken, the king then commissioned and told his followers that once he dies, he would like to be buried right next to his wife in this mausoleum. So you get to visit and see the graves of both the king and his wife, for which this mausoleum was built. It is probably one of the most spectacular buildings that you will ever visit. From there, we go to Ranthambore. Now, Ranthambore, there are going to be a couple of other places that we will visit in Agra, and I'll be there all along with you. Ranthambore is again about maybe 4 hour drive from Agra, and it's now we are going to move in the western part of India toward a little bit of a dry part of India. And what really impresses me about Ranthambore is the diversity of not of just plants and animals, and of course we are going to see all that diversity, but also I hope that you will pay attention to the diversity of the people. Ranthambore was a kingdom established in the pre-colonial period, and a lot of people from all over India came and settled around this kingdom. And just simply the cultural and the physical diversity that you see in this place is just amazing. Here is another picture of some of the people that you're going to come across while you're walking and traveling through the Ranthambore area. And of course, in addition to man watching, we will also be seeing a lot of rhesus monkeys, a lot of macaques, and of course the prize, the tigers in Ranthambore. We will quickly move from Ranthambore to Jaipur, and the city of Jaipur is often called as Pink City. It's about 167 miles west of New Delhi, and the population is about 3.1 million people. Again, a lot of history packed in the city of Jaipur. It's also called as the city of palaces. So a lot of small palaces are built in this city, and we will get to visit to some of those. Here is one of the hotels. As you can see, that this is this picture is of an older hotel, and here is the modern hotel in Jaipur. One of the things that you really want to do is to go into, because as we will be there during the Festival of Lights, and as you walk through the old walled city of Jaipur, the markets in Jaipur, these shopping streets are just amazing. The colorful, which I try to capture with these pictures, the color combinations are just something that I have not been able to imagine and have not been able to recreate. So good place to shop, good place to buy gifts for your loved ones as we pack our journey back to New Delhi. Thank you very much.
That is wonderful. That trip just looks amazing. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared. We'll go ahead and switch over to back to Kevin. So I'll have you unshare your screen, and then we'll talk a little bit about a very different destination, the Galapagos Islands. And to help with that conversation, we're going to bring Kevin back on. Kevin, come join us. Oh, you're there. You're there. You popped in.
I did. All right, let's get back to my slides here. So yeah, this is, so Galapagos is a very, very different destination. So I think one of the really fascinating things about the India trip and having Sunil on the India trip is it has such a rich cultural history in there. And then, you know, when you think about the Galapagos, it doesn't have that long of a human history, which I find really interesting. It's really only since about the 1800s that people actually started living on the Galapagos Islands. And before that, in the 16 and 1700s, it was kind of a stopover for pirates and whalers. They would just kind of stop to grab food, which at that time was unfortunately the giant tortoises. but they would, but people weren't really living there until the 1800s. So it's very recent as far as it being a human settlement. I'm going to show you a quick map in case you're just not quite sure where Galapagos is. I think everybody knows a general idea. It's off the coast of Ecuador. It's part of Ecuador, but it's way off the coast of Ecuador. It's 600 miles off the coast. It's not one of those islands that you just hop over to. It's really out there, and these are volcanic islands that kind of rose up out of the ocean. And I didn't mention this earlier when I introduced myself, but I'm a biologist by education. So for me, the Galapagos has always been kind of the main bucket list destination for a biologist, because it has such a rich history of wildlife, plants and animals that are found there. And I did get to go to the Galapagos in 2019 in the fall, actually right around the same time that this trip is going to be going. It was in November. And that was my last international trip before COVID hit. So this it's still fresh in my memory. And I would say it was definitely a bucket list destination. And it's still a bucket list destination because I want to go back. And I'll talk a little bit about why that is. Here's what's interesting about this particular trip. The one we put together for OSU alumni. These are the islands that you're going to be visiting on this trip. It's quite a few of them. It's not all of them. There's about 13 major islands in the whole archipelago, and then 48 smaller islands, but you're going to be getting to a lot of them. And I mentioned that the Galapagos doesn't have a long human history, but you're actually going to be going to all 4 of the islands that do have people living on them. So only 4 of the islands have humans living on them, and you're going to be going to all of those. So you are going to get to see some of the human history on the islands as well as the wildlife, which will be very interesting. Now, the other really unique thing about our itinerary is we're doing a land and sea combo. So typically when you go to the Galapagos, you're going to fly into Ecuador, you're going to get on another flight that's going to take you out to the islands. And then usually you're going to spend the whole time on a boat, which is great. And you're going to stop at each island. So kind of like on a bigger cruise, each day you're at a different island, and you get maybe half day or maybe a whole day to explore, depending on the size of the island. Our itinerary is a land and sea combo. So you're going to get the best of both worlds. You're going to be on the boat for 4 of those nights. And then you're actually going to be staying at a lodge on Isabella Island for 3 of those nights, which is really neat to get to actually sleep on the island, wake up on the island, hear the birds, walk around a little bit more. It's a really nice experience. The first 4 nights, like I said, are going to be on a boat. First 4 nights, I should say, in the islands are going to be on a boat called the Galaxy. So that's our boat right there. We're hoping to fill it. 16. We can get 16 OSU alumni folks on there, and that'll be kind of your group. So it's a very nice kind of personalized experience. That's just a picture of the cabin. They're very comfortable, and the just to get you into the what the rhythm is going to be like day to day while you're living on this boat. After breakfast, you're typically going to go out on some kind of an excursion, and you see this kind of Zodiac type boat. That's what you'll be taking to go to the islands, and you might be going for a hike. You might be doing a tour where you stay on the Zodiac and tour around a cove and get up close to wildlife. There's also going to be opportunities for snorkeling, for kayaking. So each day the activities will be a little bit different, but you're going to be out exploring the islands each day from your home base of the Galaxy yacht. And then you're going to come back from your adventures, and if you want to, the boat has a bar. You can hang out, have a cocktail before dinner time. There's tons of outdoor space on the yacht. That just makes it a really nice place to come home to and relax after the kind of daily excursions. And then same thing, you'll have your dinners. You'll have a briefing every night. So kind of after dinner, you'll have a meeting with the guides who are going to tell you what to plan for the next day, and tell you what wildlife you're going to be seeing, tell you any history that's relevant to the next islands you're going to be visiting. So it's a nice daily rhythm when you're living on the yacht. And some of the wildlife that I'm sure you've heard of. This is the blue-footed booby. You can see those on most of the islands. And this one, I'm jealous because you all are going to be going to Espanola Island, and that's one of the only places where you can find the waved albatross. And the reason I said that Galapagos is still on my bucket list is because every time you go to the Galapagos, the itinerary is designated by the National Park Service. They actually kind of dictate which boats are on which islands on which days. So you could go to the Galapagos a bunch of times and never do the exact same itinerary. So I didn't get to go to Espanola Island on my trip, and I didn't get to see the waved albatross. When you all are there in November, it's going to be right at the time when the chicks are fledging and taking their first flights. So that's going to be really neat. And I will be jealous that you're going to get to see that, and I didn't. One of the other really neat things that I didn't get to see, because I didn't go to Floriana Island, but this is one of those really historic kind of human history sites on Floriana Island. This is a post office, a very ancient post office. It's just a barrel, but it's famous there. And this is what the whalers used to use back in the 1700s. They would drop mail off there, and then the next ship that came by would pick stuff up and take it to the next place. And it's still in use. So you would have the opportunity to pick up postcards or mailings that other people had left and possibly take it back to the US and deliver it if you find one that's from somebody in your area. And kind of like Sunil was saying, with all the colors in India, you're going to see a lot of really neat colors in the Galapagos. The plant life there is really unique, and the color of the water. This is South Plaza Island, which is covered in this red vegetative ground cover. All right, so then after the Galaxy Yacht, you're going to be on there for 4 nights, and then you're going to get on a boat that's going to take you to Isabella Island, which on this map is over on your left-hand side. It's the largest island in the Galapagos, and it is inhabited, but just at the very southern portion by people, because the rest of it is volcanoes, and it's actually made up of a string of volcanoes that are all kind of joined together over the years. And this is a very very gorgeous place that you're going to be staying at. It's called Scalacia Lodge. This is the main building right there. It has an overlook, lots of kind of outdoor areas that overlook into the ocean because it's built on the hillside. So beautiful views. That's kind of an outdoor, indoor-outdoor seating area where we'll do briefings and discuss the day's activities. And then you'll be staying in these really, really nice tent experiences, very similar if you've been to Africa or if you've seen photos of Serengeti, those kind of tented camps. That's what Scalacia Lodge is, and they actually modeled it after that that type of experience. Very comfortable, very beautiful, and unlike in Africa, you can actually kind of go outside of your tent because there's no predators to worry about in the Galapagos. So you can stroll around the grounds, and you can come and go from your tent at night. Galapagos penguins are found there, which is one of the species that people are looking forward to seeing. I did see those on Isabella Island, and they are the species of penguin that is found the farthest north because they're right at the equator. And then there's also a volcano that you'll hike to on Isabella Island called Sierra Negra. And you hike up and then go along the rim and have kind of a picnic lunch up there. It's really, really beautiful. It's not terribly strenuous. It's a good kind of half-day hike, but it's not terribly steep. And again, I'm not going to read through all of the inclusions on this, but for this one, we are including all the meals because there's not a lot of options when you're in the Galapagos. So you're going to have all your meals on the boat. You'll have all your meals at Scalacia Lodge. So that's one main difference there. And again, we're including all the tips and gratuities. We've got the travel protection for medical emergencies as part of the trip cost. And then I was just going to end up by showing you some of my photos. So the photos I showed you earlier are photos from the lodges and from Holbrook Travel. Since I just went there in November, I actually took a lot of my own photos. And again, I'm a biologist, so they're going to be very, very wildlife focused. And I don't know how appealing these are to all of you, But for me, the chance to see marine iguanas was amazing. And the wildlife there has kind of evolved without a lot of predators. So they don't have any fear of people. So these animals are just kind of lounging all over the place. They're lying across the paths, across the sidewalks. And it is kind of like visiting a prehistoric era biologically. So there's a marine iguana, and here's one swimming. Like, to me, it looks like Godzilla, but it's very neat to see them with these different behaviors that you wouldn't normally expect. This is one of my favorite photos because I was able to get marine iguanas and sharks in the same shot, which I thought, where else can you do that? So it's kind of standing above this rocky cliff and looking down at these really neat white-tipped reef sharks, and then have iguanas clinging to the edge of the cliff right above them. I thought was a really neat.
That's a great shot, Kevin. That's great.
Yeah. This was an area on Isabella Island that you'll get to go to. It's called Las Tintoreras, and it's we went snorkeling in here right after we snapped these photos, and that's a green sea turtle, just kind of floating around in the cove, and we saw several of them during our snorkeling excursion in this beautiful crystal clear water. And I've been trying to get decent flamingo photos my entire life, and this is the first time I was able to get some within the Galapagos. Several lagoons on this itinerary are going to get you into areas where you can see the greater flamingo. And of course, the giant tortoises, which is what the Galapagos are famous for. There's actually, several different subspecies and different ones on different islands and things like that. So this was a selfie that I took with tortoises in the background. And you see too that the background of the islands, each island is completely different. When Charles Darwin visited the islands, back in the 1830s, that's what he noticed, was that these islands are fairly close together, but each one has its own ecosystem. Each one has different plant life, has different animals that are unique to each island. So they don't all look like we picture. What I pictured was that kind of volcanic look with the shrubby plants and things like that. But each island is different. Like I said, the wildlife is really used to people, so you don't want to get too close to them because it's not wise, and we want to be respectful of them. But they're probably not going to move out of your way. You'll probably have to go around them, or if you wanted to sit on that bench, you're probably just going to have to wait your turn. And then this I took with my cell phone. This wasn't even with a good camera. So one of the things I appreciated about the Galapagos is, I'm not a great photographer. I don't have any fancy equipment. I was still able to get close because the wildlife is just right there and not running away. So this little sea lion was just greeting us right when we got off that Zodiac boat onto the island. He was just right alongside the designated path there. He didn't budge.
Hey, Kevin, keep going on some of these photos, but I want to invite Sunil back while you're showing some of these pictures and let folks know that if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the Q&A box right at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question for either Sunil or for Kevin on either destination, type them in that Q&A box and we will go through and answer your questions. But Kevin, go ahead and finish your slides and your photos while folks are starting to type in some questions.
Sure. Yeah, and I only have a few left. I was going to end on this guy, but then I figured people might want to see the landscape a little bit more than just my wildlife photos. So again, here's a landscape photo, and this is very typical, I think, of a lot of the Galapagos Islands. Like I said, they're volcanic rock. This island, South Plaza Island, which you'll be going to, has cactus on it. It's got this red ground cover succulent plant kind of covering all the rocks. But then when you're on Isabella Island and you're staying at Scalesia Lodge, you almost feel like you're in a rainforest. I was not expecting this kind of lush green forested vegetation that I saw on the southern end of Isabella Island, where Scalesia Lodge is. Completely different. This is the view from Scalesia Lodge when you're in that area where the dining room is, kind of the main building, and you're just looking out at the ocean with the islands in the background. And that was the end of my Galapagos pictures. So I'm really hoping
That's
that
great.
we all will see you on some of these trips.
Yes, definitely. And I hopefully people notice the reason why we're doing the Galapagos and India together in one webcast is because they're both brought to you by Holbrook Travel. So that's the connection if we weren't very clear in the beginning of why we're doing all this together. So I don't see a question yet coming into the Q&A box, but I did have one for Sunil. Knowing that you do try to get back to India every year, and this year, unfortunately, we wasn't possible. What is it that you're really missing, and what are you super excited to see as soon as you head back home?
Where do I even begin answering that question? um, I think I think it's the as I said, what really I miss is the diversity. And diversity, not just in terms of the way we define diversity here, like ethnic and racial and cultural diversity, it's just diversity in every aspect of life. The colors, the color combination that we probably will never even imagine would actually coexist. They coexist. The 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 continuum of modernity and tradition coming together, the flavors, the food, just the aromas of that you get to see as you enter India. Those are the things that I miss the most, and it's been more than a year, and I'm desperately missing all of that. So.
Yes, I can imagine. And one thing we didn't talk too much about was the Festival of Lights. We will be there during the Festival of Lights. And so if we do have a couple questions coming in, but so if you haven't heard about the Festival of Lights yet, you'll want to check it out. It is amazing. The city just lights up at light at night, and everyone is part of it. And it's pretty magical. So I had one question pop in that said, can only staff, students, or alumni go? And the answer is no. Everyone's welcome to come, definitely. So we welcome you all to come to the Galapagos to India or any of our tours. And the dates of the India trip. Kevin, you have those right at your finger. And is the airfare included? The airfare is not included in the price. And Kevin, what are those dates again?
The dates for India are October 25th to November 6th.
October 25th to November 6th. So the Festival of Lights highlights right near the end of that time.
By the way, Kate, if I could just say that this is probably the perfect time to go to India. With the Festival of Lights and also the weather, this is the time when the entire northern part where will be takes on a very festive look.
That's great. That's great. So I don't see any other questions coming in, but this was so great. I have a couple other things I want to tell our audience about, but man, these presentations, I mean, Sunil, I was just enthralled listening to you speak about India, and Kevin, they're both of these trips have been on my bucket list forever. So maybe and if by chance we can't get to them this year, we're keeping these on our list. So if for some reason we can't get to India, then we'll get there later on. And the Galapagos tour is also this fall. And Kevin, those dates are again?
And that one is November 7th to the 17th.
November 7th through the 17th.
Yeah.
I don't have my cheat sheet right in front of me, and I know Kevin does, so thank you for that. And then for the India trip, where does the group meet up to start the tour? We meet in Delhi, right? Yeah, so you'll meet up at the airport, and we actually pick you up at the airport. So you don't have to worry about transportation, getting from the airport, getting to the hotel. So all of that transportation is taken care of for you from the airport all the way through the tour and then back to the airport on your way home. Yeah. Okay, I think those are all of our questions. If you do have questions about either one of these trips, you're welcome to email us or give us a call, travel@osualum.com and 541-737-2351 is the phone number. And I'm going to share my screen again real quick here and show you a couple more things just to keep in mind when you are traveling. Be sure to check out these two websites before you head out. You will definitely want to know your current COVID regulations. And of course, we will let all travelers know as well, but these are sites to go no matter where you're vacationing to check out before you head out. And then on our website, you will see that our front page has some information on the provider's safety guidelines. So there'll be a link for Holbrooks there as well. And you'll also see on the left-hand side the Ask Us button and links to the travel talks and presentations in our virtual travel resources. On our Travel Talks page, there's recordings of all of these talks, the ones we talked about previously. And there's also additional presentations and resources such as our OSU in Oregon project showcasing alumni-owned and OSU-supported travel-related businesses in the state of Oregon. Most of our pages on the website have additional information on the right-hand column, such as purchasing travel insurance. That is definitely something that you'll want to look into traveling, especially now with COVID with us. And then lastly, if you did not know, but of course we're on Facebook, so join the community on Facebook and talk to fellow travelers, and you'll get updates from me about the travel industry in whole. And then that's it for us for today. So thank you so much, Sunil and Kevin, for being with us today and for giving us this overview on the Galapagos in India. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Well, we hope you all have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you at our next travel talk. Goodbye.